So, Danette May, thank you so much for joining me on Why Isn't Everyone Doing This? I was just going through your website, which I feel like this should be a part of friendship now. It's like when you meet someone, you should be like obliged to go through their website to just see
That's
how
probably
amazing
true.
they are. Because
That
you've
is
done
probably
so much. And I'm going to do your official bio afterwards, but I was floored. Like, you are a mother, you are the founder of multiple companies, you are a keynote speaker, you have a podcast, you have a whole wellness product line of giving people superfoods, like access to really high quality superfoods, and you're teaching people to manifest. So I think the thing that I want to lead with is, how are you manifesting so many things? Like, is this through you remembering your divine nature? Is this through you remembering your bigness? Or what's your manifestation practice look like? Because you've manifested a lot.
Yeah, and actually, it's interesting. The book's like right behind me because that exact question was asked to me from Hay House. After I'd written the first book, I was like, I'm not writing a book for a while because, as we all know, when we write a book, it's a lot of work. I don't know. I've written a lot of digital programs or yeah, programs, books, and for whatever reason, something about a hard copy book feels so hard because you can't really change anything in there, and I don't know, just something about it because it's going to be in bookstores. It's a journey. But they had come to me and they said, we want to know, and we were wondering if you'd write a book on what you just asked. Like, how is it that you had $47 to your name and now you have these 8-figure businesses? How is it that you lost a child and now it seems, and went through really hard divorce and now married, seem like you have a great relationship with your kids and these friendships and your health, you look younger than you did before. Like, what is that? And I was like, that's really interesting because it's something that is near and dear to my heart, but I'm also was just kind of stepping into talking about it because I was figuring out the right languaging. Because I always want to be a bridge. I never want to be like, oh, I'm preaching or I'm better, and I also want to reach people where I was before, which was from this very religious background. And I know the people that are in my sphere, they come a lot from the same backgrounds. And so I wanted to be that bridge of not being too far out there, but knowing that I had some stuff that I was like, you guys, I'm working with some energies, and we have this ability, all of us, to work with these energies, and all of us are worthy of this. All of us have immense gifts inside of us, and we are so much more than we've been told.
Mm.
And ultimately, I started discovering all of this because I took my mess, all the stuff that was, really difficult in my life, and really had to stop and pause and look at it. And I have to thank a lot of mentors and people that have passed on, that in my alone time and in my sorrow and in my, like, honestly, losing my son and the divorce, I was just clinging to anything free that I could get online from people that I looked up to. And there was a formula that kept playing over and over from all these different people that I looked up to. And that formula was, most of them had a mess, most of them had chaos. And I was like, okay, I have that too.
Right?
Great. And
Check.
exactly. And they started to play with the energy of words, the energy of thoughts, the energy of vibration within their body, energy of belief, who they surround themselves with, the conversations they're having. And so I started playing with that and just taking it on as my truth too, and just started watching my life completely change. And of course, that I've always had this huge fascination with indigenous ways, and was getting, even just with that fascination, I was finding that I was getting invited to places that for sure no blonde haired, blue eyed girl had been. And I was discovering even more than what I could read in a book or hear on YouTube.
Mhm.
And so that was what led me to really start creating on a higher level when it came to business, creating on a higher level in my personal, intimate relationships, creating on a higher level in my health. And now I'd love for everyone to have this and to experience this.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was struck by, is that you're really like playing full out in all of these areas.
I
You
try.
said multiple 8-figure businesses, right?
Mm.
Like, mom, partner, right? You're a spiritual teacher, speaker, health and wellness. Like you're really like you've not allowed yourself to be pigeonholed. And so when you say you're working with energies, can you just tell us a little bit more about that? Like what does that mean, working with energies?
Okay, so I come from this belief that we all have certain, like, we all have codes, and they're not coming from Grandma Nina. They're coming from these beings, they're coming from the stars, they're coming from the cosmos. And I also believe that everything is energy. Everyone is working with energy. Whether you like what you're seeing or not liking what you're seeing, you're working with energy. Every single person is emitting an energy. Every plant, every stone, every the desk and the speaker and the computer, everything's an energy. But I also believe that some of us are working with magic. And I inherently am cautious to talk about it because I don't think magic is something that everyone should play with necessarily. I think we can all play with energy, but sometimes magic can be used not in such great ways. And I think we open ourselves to these powers that if we're not in alignment with love and light, it could turn and be very subtle into not such a positive thing.
So even if someone's not intending to like use black magic or like casting spells on someone to do harm, but you're saying that if someone is even using more powerful energies or using magic for their own personal manifestations, if it's not coming from a place of pure intention, that they might inadvertently do themselves harm?
I think you could inadvertently do yourself harm in the fact that you could build some karma because everything is karma, meaning that if we're just in this school, I believe we're just in this school down here doing the best we can and we're receiving information as well as giving information back and forth to the cosmos because
Yep.
this is not just planet Earth is not just the only thing going on, in my opinion. I think there's a lot going on, more
I
than
mean,
we
there's
need to go
billions
down
of stars,
the
billions
hole.
of galaxies. It would be very arrogant to think that Earth is it.
And these are the people and that I'm not like connected to every single thing around me, right? Like I think it would be quite arrogant to think that you're separated from it. And
Mhm.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, and basically
So
that's the core of most spiritual teachings, right? There's only one thing. We're all it. We're all
Yes,
interconnected. Like
totally.
this is what
And it's a
most books
lot
teach
to
you.
swallow because we're not really taught it, but if we can feel into it, we'll remember because it is a universal truth. So if we were to think of everything being energy, like let's just take on this belief system that everything is energy from my pen to the computer to my thought to anything, my body, my energy to Emily. Let's say so if I have that belief system and I believe I'm connected to something greater, then what I do is I actually embody the energy. So if I was like, okay, for example, my first book with Hay House, that was a practice in energy because I always said I wanted to be an author with Hay House because those particular authors had impacted me. I didn't want any other publishing house. If I was going to write a metaphysical book, I only wanted them. And I remember like feeling into that. And what I do is I see it. I see that a book. I see that it's with this publishing firm. I don't know what the book is, but I know it's like these deep musings within me. And I remember then getting an interview where they were like, "We want to meet you in New York," and they were like, they wanted my Eat, Drink, and Shrink book, which was this recipe book. And it was probably because at that time Hay House was going through kind of a financial dip. And so they were like, oh, let's just start looking at taking on some nutrition books or some things that actually are converting for people. And I knew in my heart of hearts what I was visualizing, which was not a recipe book. It was deep internal musings around energy. And I remember them offering me a deal, which I was selling it online already. And I was like, I said no. I said, no, this isn't the right book. And I walked away, which was really interesting because it was like I called that meeting in, but I know what I'm desiring with them. Fast forward, I get an email from Hay House like a year and a half, maybe 2 years later, and it's the CEO of Hay House, and he's like, I would like to meet with you. And I was like, well, I happen to be in La Jolla filming, and he's like, I will come to where you're filming. I want to sit down with you. I'm like, what are the odds of that other than energy, right? Me embodying what I truly desire and believing. See, I believe in the alchemy of energy being love. So working on my only job is how much can I love myself. That's where I come from and what I believe in. And when I am in the alchemy of love, and I'm emitting love for myself and emitting love out, then that is a magnet to whatever I'm desiring. And so we sit down, we're sitting on this balcony. I'm sitting with the CEO of Hay House, and we're talking about Louise Hay, and we're talking about Wayne Dyer, and we're just bonding. Like, we're not talking books, we're just bonding. And then he goes, I really hope you choose Hay House to write your first book with. And I'm like, you hope I choose Hay House? Like, I hope you choose me. And he's like, really? And then he's like, what do you want to write on? You can write on anything you want. And I was like, okay. And then the advance that they gave me was like out of this, like I had not even thought of an advance or what that advance, I wasn't meditating on that. But anyway, that's just an example of energy, an example of using that energy.
Mm, wow. Okay, so I heard you say that your priority is loving yourself and then emitting that frequency of love and then holding the vision, that you see the vision, you believe that it's possible, and it sounds like you're working with the energy of your words, your beliefs, your actions, and then trusting what shows up. And the other thing I heard is that a no can lead to a yes. You know, that if we're saying no, if we're saying yes to the things that are actually no's, because I would have likely, if I'm in that position, I know I want to book with Hay House. They've offered me this recipe book. I'll say yes to this, and this will lead to the next book. So what made you say no?
What made me say no was that I was already making good money on that book on my own. I didn't need a
Hmm.
publishing house to come in. It was already had its own wings and legs because once again, when you create, you're not creating for you. You're creating for something bigger, right? So for me, I'd created the book. It was serving humanity at a very great rate, and I didn't my service would have been in something different. So I could have taken on that thinking, but I was like, no, this isn't in alignment for what I'm truly desiring. Did I know that door would open up again? I didn't. But I think that's when you're really in love with yourself, or not in an egoic way, but when you really can believe in yourself and love yourself, it's easy to say no. It's not like it was easy, but it's not hard. It's not like this is never going to come again. It's just this or
Hmm.
something better.
Yeah, I think that what it displays to me is an extraordinary amount of trust, right? That like the actual aligned thing will
Yes.
come.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I want to talk more about your self-love practice, but you just mentioned, and as I was going through your website earlier, I did not know this about you. I did not know that you had lost a son. And I'm
Yeah.
so curious what that journey was like. Well, first of all, thank you for sharing that with us. I was weeping, crying. I was listening to one of your keynotes, just sobbing, crying. Um,
Oh,
and
wow.
and just feeling so much love and compassion for you and wishing that I had known so that I could love you better as a friend, and then feeling grateful that you're willing to let us into that vulnerable moment. But I'm curious how that journey has shaped you, how
Mhm.
losing a son has affected your ability to love yourself, because I imagine at times it might have felt harder,
Yeah.
but it seems like maybe stronger now. So anything that
Yeah.
you feel inspired to share now about that?
Yeah, I feel very inspired to talk about it now because I mean, I don't think, I know we're all gonna lose someone we love dearly. And when I say lose, I don't think we lose anyone. And I think this
Mhm.
is why this happened for me so that I can really feel into what I believe is true for me and hopefully be a beacon for anyone who is going to release someone they deeply love on this earth plane.
Ooh, release is such a better way of saying it.
Yeah, because we don't really lose anything, right? So I'll speak to the rawness of it because I think all of us are going to feel the rawness. This is the human experience. And the rawness was, oh, I had this idea of having a son, and now I'm not bringing home my son. And now I have to reconcile with this room of clothes and these dreams that I had of having this son. and also reconciling with, did I do something wrong? Because some of us feel that when there's a passing of a loved one. Did I say the right thing? Did I give enough? Did I potentially cause this, depending on the circumstance? And so I had to go through all of that navigating, right? And it was gnarly, because there was depression, there was this loathing, there was this shut in moment in time. And over time, I started to understand that he's not gone.
Mm-hmm.
And there are so many stories from so many people around loved ones showing signs in animals, and showing signs in a song just randomly playing,
Mm-hmm.
or you can feel them in a dream state, or you can just feel them. And I always tell people, really hold on to that. It's not coincidence. We're so known, and these loved ones, these ancestors, these people that have passed on and moved on and released, they're just in another realm, and a lot of times here to support and help. And so I do like speaking on that, because I think there's a almost like, why me? Why would God do this to me? Why would this happen, when I know it's for us? And some souls have chosen to come in for a certain duration, and some have, some go quicker, some go longer. There's no right or wrong. No, nothing was wrong in any of it. It's just that there's a new realm to be had.
Mm. It reminds me, one of my favorite quotes is, nothing is either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. It's a Shakespeare
Yeah.
quote. It's very
Hmm.
in line with the Vedas, is that there's no such thing as good or bad. There's just creation, maintenance, and destruction. And so this idea that what is the soul's highest service? What is that soul's highest purpose? It could be in the body, or it could
Hmm.
be to be an angel or some like unembodied being helping you in this mission. And
Totally.
so can you speak to how that experience affected your self-love, your ability to love yourself?
Yeah, I always say that it took him like passing on and going to sleep for me to wake up. And for
Mm.
me to like really wake up, I needed that jolt in my life, because I
Mhm.
did like face off. There's like almost this beauty in hitting a rock bottom. I can speak to this because I've been there. And
Mhm.
when you hit rock bottom, it really is this like almost like this unshackling that happens, because for me it's like, imagine if you just hit like rock bottom and you're in the bottom of this cave and you have no idea how to get out. It's like you're not going to be like, oh, I'm going to be pretend to be this person, or pretend to be this person anymore, because you don't care. And it was almost like I didn't care anymore. I was like, I don't care what belief systems my family wants me to hold on to. I don't care about being the good girl anymore. I've just lost it all. And so it's like unshackle, unshackle, unshackle. And that woke me up. I was like, I don't care anymore. It was like, I'm just ready to be me. And
Yeah.
that was led me to the divorce. It led me to me saying, all these things that I've been taught, is this my truth? And I just started going, nope, not my truth, not my truth, not my truth. Not in a like, I'm angry, but like, whoa, what is Danette's truth? Because right now she is just reclaiming herself.
Oof. Oh, it sounds like you've got like a healthy dose of F it. We are just like you said, there's no room for pretense
Healthy
or
dose of
hiding.
acid. That's it's
Yeah.
so true.
Where
True.
I find that like some of my best creations come right on the other side of me being like, fuck it. And the fuck it is not like, it's not out of anger. It's not out of wanting to hurt anyone, but there is like I don't care what other people think. I'm going to listen to the still small voice inside, which is usually divinity, right? It's usually nature using us as vessels. And so I just want to really celebrate you for the bravery of that, and for using that time that might have broken many people, that might have paralyzed many people, and instead used it as a tool to shed things that were not truly Danette. And I'd love to hear, because I would say that my divorce was like top three most powerful, transformative, consciousness shifting events in my life. And I know that so many people think of it as like a failure, or a sin, or something that they've made a mistake around. And it sounds like for you, and I'm not going to say that it's easy. Everyone's is unique, but anything that you feel inspired to share about your divorce, about how it has changed you, how it has alchemized you, I would love to hear.
Yeah, I think it's important to talk about this because for me, walking into a divorce or from my conditioning as a child, it's like you don't get divorced.
Yeah.
That is a failure. That is you only get divorced if you're getting beat, you know? If there's like a physical abuse, not even just emotional abuse, but physical abuse. And so that was the way I thought about divorce. And so when I stepped into it, of course, I was wrestling with those thoughts of I failed my kids, I
Hmm.
failed myself,
Hmm.
I failed my family, I failed my friends, I failed his family. And so I did have to face off with those thoughts. And how I face off with them, as I say, is that absolutely true? Is it absolutely true that I ruined everybody? And I do remember, well, I do have to say that mine was not pretty, mine was not amicable. Mine was very, very difficult. And I imagine everybody has a different, regardless if it's amicable or not, it's very difficult, especially with kids, because as mothers, all we care about ultimately is that they are okay and that we've done right by them. At least that's how I felt. And I was really wrestling with it because of them.
And how old were
And
your kids at this time?
um, 2 and 6.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, it was going on a little while, but by the time,
Yeah.
so anyway, that was a big decision for me, and I decided that these children deserved a mom fully awake, and they deserved a
Mm-hmm.
mom who was honoring her truth. And if I were to ask, like, let's just say if they were older and they were coming to me and they were in the same situation,
Hmm.
I would be advocating for them to be in bliss, to be in happiness, and to be in their truth, no matter what. And so, why couldn't I advocate that for myself? And so, this divorce taught me like, it's been the most pivotal thing for me because it's taught me the most fundamental thing, which I think is also an alchemy of manifesting, since we're both so excited and connected in that way, is forgiveness. And I've had to do years and years and years of deep work on forgiving my ex, forgiving myself. And I feel like that's been a huge gift because if I can forgive him, then I can forgive pretty much anything, you know? And so it's important. People that have really hurt us, it's important to still forgive. And I've watched as my wings have come out because of forgiveness.
I think that forgiveness is, it's like gratitude. It's like that word that gets thrown around a lot and we almost stop hearing it. Like
Hmm.
gratitude, give thanks, I'm grateful. But if you really practice gratitude, it'll change your whole life. And I feel like
Yeah.
forgiveness is the same way. We gets thrown around of like, oh, forgive and but it's if you really do it. I mean, it's actually what they do in 40 years of Zen. Have you done 40 years of Zen?
So funny. I have a ticket. I've had a ticket for years and I haven't used it.
I've never
Like
done it.
my husband bought me a ticket and I haven't used it.
But that's what I hear. So for 5 days, you have your brain hooked up to electrodes, and like you're trying to basically emulate the brain state of monks that have been meditating for 40 years. And the thing that you're doing primarily is forgiveness. And so I
Yeah.
love that you said that it's giving you your wings, like it's ushering you into these higher states of consciousness through forgiving probably the hardest person, which is the situation, and also yourself in that. Um,
Yeah.
so when you say like growing your wings, it sounds similar to what you wanted to have this episode about. Like, why isn't everyone remembering their bigness? Why isn't everyone remembering like how connected we all are? So can you speak to that? If you could imagine waving a magic wand over the planet and tomorrow morning 8 billion people wake up and they do remember their bigness. They do remember how connected we all are. What do you think that world would look like?
Well, I do want to say that even though I know this, I am also human and I have days and moments, well, I would say more moments now, where I question or I forget. And I know I'm questioning because if I'm not fully standing in um, my fullest alignment or doing the thing that I know like my soul's leading me to, then I'm questioning, right? Because why else would I do that? Why else would I procrastinate? Why else would I not forgive? Why else would I do all the little things that we do as humans if
Mm,
I remembered? So I do
mm,
want to say that I don't necessarily think we're always evolving in our remembrance. So to give us all freedom in that. But if
Mhm.
everyone was remembering just even a fraction more of who we're really connected to and who we really are, and understood this like mission, holy moly, I think we'd be playing with totally different energies. I
Well,
think we would.
who are we connected to, and what is the mission?
Well, everybody's mission, I believe, is different. I think we're connected to it. It's interesting. So I had Emily on my podcast, on the Manifesto podcast, and she talked about the big G, the big God. And I feel like there is a supreme creator. I don't think it's male. I don't think it's like what I was taught. I believe it's an
I think it's
energy.
absurd to gender something as big as God.
Yeah, I believe in this, what I would call a God. Like I would call it a supreme energy. And then I believe that there's all these different powerful energy sources that come from what we would probably call as stars, planets, galaxies. And I do think Earth is like this little test. And I think we all said, okay, I'm going to go down. And I've had moments in different ceremonies for myself where I was like, oh, like, wow, I was kind of not really wanting to come down here. Like, I was a little bit nervous for this mission. We all have different missions. Some of us are to feel emotion in all the extremes. And we conjure up emotions, we stir emotions, we create drama, and it's to feel all the emotions, and we like to stir it up in others because we're here to like take that information and bring it back up. This is my belief system. I'm going out there on this
I
podcast.
love this. I love this. That's the whole point of this podcast, to bring the taboo into digestible ways. And I am with you. I am loving this.
Yeah, and like others are, they might just be walking certain lands or certain paths to receive codes, take the codes back up. They don't even know they're doing it. They're like little code master. Like we all have a different, I'm just giving examples. We all have a different
Mhm.
mission.
Mhm.
Um, but ultimately, this is such a fraction in who our essence, our light essence is. This is just a fraction. So if we could remember that this is just a fraction of time and space,
Mhm.
and that there's a specific mission, I think we would also just chill out. Like if I think we would almost look at life a little bit more like a vacation. Like you don't worry about the car you rent for vacation typically. If it gets you from A to B, you're like, cool, I'm in this car. We wouldn't be worrying about the prestigious bags and all these things that are illusions around, or I have to have this job or make this money. I think we would just be operating more in the emotion and the soul call to lead us. Now, are those things fun and fine? Sure. But we wouldn't put so much emphasis on them.
Mm. Okay, so what I heard you say is, if we remembered like how big we are, that we are a fraction of something bigger, then we would see this ride as a more like a vacation than like a testing ground, right? Like a make it or
A
break
little
it.
bit more fun. I think we would have a little more fun.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. That we
Yeah.
just have a little bit more fun. And that has come through many times. Like you asked me this amazing question on your podcast, that if it was I was in front of millions and millions of people and everyone could see and feel and hear me, and I could transmit one final message, what would that be? And the first thought that I had actually was have more fun. And so I'd like to play that question to you in reverse, because now you've painted the picture of what it would look like if we remembered. But now
Mhm.
let's say you're on stage, there's millions of people in front of you, and you're able to transmit one frequency, you're able to install one code into the species. What code would you want to install?
You are unconditionally loved.
You are already unconditionally loved.
No matter whatever whatever one's standing in, you're every single person is unconditionally loved. This I do know for sure.
How do you know that for sure? Like what about your life experience? What about your body? Like how do you know that?
I think it's one of the gifts that I've been given, is to at some point see certain things, and I've seen and have had witness of seeing how even someone we would judge as a murderer or a bum or someone who takes advantage of others, and or someone who's doing amazing good things in the world, whatever we want to label, that every single being on this planet is loved,
Mm.
completely loved.
And I also really believe that everyone is doing the best that they can with the tools that they have. Like if
Hmm.
we knew what that murderer faced or saw when they were an infant or what was in their karmic lineage, like we would have a lot more forgiveness, I think, if our lens was bigger and we
Hmm.
understood that we don't know how the story ends. So who are
Yeah.
we to judge what is good or bad?
Yeah.
So, why isn't everyone remembering their divine nature? Why isn't everyone remembering how big we are? What's keeping us from that?
I think that was part of the plan. I don't think all of us, we weren't meant to come down and just know it, like know exactly what our mission was or know everything. I think that's part of the experiment. I think it's part of us uncovering, and it's part of the experimenting of how are you as a human going to navigate these emotions and these experiences. Plus, I believe everything is quite karmic, and so um, some people might have a little bit more some sticky things that they get to navigate, to transmute it to love,
Mm,
within themselves. But I think this is part of this experience of going, like, okay, this person did me dirty, but if I believe that everybody's loved, who am I not to love? And who am I not to let that be and let go so that I can move through the karmic lesson and move to the next thing?
mm. And then also not take on that energy and allow it to poison you, which is going to change your vibration and your ability to manifest the next thing because you're too
Mhm.
busy not loving the person who did you dirty. It
Totally.
becomes like a self-love exercise.
Totally.
How do you define karma?
That's a great question. So I'm gonna try to do it in like really simple, hopefully simple
I
way.
think
But
most masterful.
yeah, so for example, anything that is like, we can all relate to how our body feels, right? Because we have these bodies. And whenever you feel like, I think any emotion actually, when you're bumping into an experience or another human, for example, like if you're bumping into trigger, like, ooh, anger, or why'd you do that? Or why does that happen? Or even love, even like this, like, ooh, I love this juiciness together. There's a karmic energy attached to that. So have you ever just bumped into somebody and it just feels easy to love them? Just
Mm.
it's just easy. But you might know somebody that you really enjoy and really trust, and they're like, that person is not easy. That person has got some bad juju and they're not a good person. But you're like, wow, with me, they just feel like so easy to love, and there just feels like this flow of great energy. And the reason we're all having these different experiences because these karmic ties. And I believe that what we get to do, on this plane, and what I'm wanting to work through and I'm wanting to do is go, oh, those sticky ones, I want to clear that. I want to know, why does it feel sticky, or why does it feel bad? Some of them are downright bad. Some of them I call sticky just because it's more of an annoyance. And go, what is the lesson in this for me? Maybe they're reflecting something back within me that I get to alchemize or work on. Maybe you're looking at them and that's a shadow part of you. Or maybe you just have so many different lifetimes that are going on all at the same time that you're
Yeah.
like, oh, I get to stop that. Yep,
Mm,
it's done. The lesson's done, and I get to let that go.
yeah.
So that's to me what I'm referring to that. Hopefully that helps.
Mm. So it sounds like you think of karma more in like interpersonally or like what is our relationship karma? What are you here to teach me? What
I
am I
like
here to
to
teach you?
start it there because most people can relate to relationship. Like
Hmm.
that's our biggest thing, is how we relate with others on this earth
Yeah.
plane. Yeah.
So this is maybe switching you into coach mode, but let's say, just hypothetically, asking for a friend, the friend might be me. Um, I always like to get some free coaching on the podcast. I also think it's interesting for people to see, you in your gift and real time practicing. But I think this is a very specific thing that's happening for me, but I think is also very universally relevant. I see a lot of women oftentimes putting it in on themselves. Oh, maybe this relationship, maybe this person is reflecting something that I need to work on inside of myself. And in so doing, settling or being in relationship with something that does not feel totally aligned, and then taking it on for themselves. Of like, oh,
Woohoo!
I need to heal something here. Let me just use as an opportunity to work and to get better. How do you tell the difference between, oh, I'm excusing someone else's lack of mastery and internalizing that versus just not standing up for your standards?
Oh my gosh, I love this question because I see this so much
Hmm.
in the deep work that I'm doing with people. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to just say, for example, we're all going to bump into, let's just call it an intimate lover because I think that's what you're referring to. And that's typically, is that what you're referring to? I guess it could be a girlfriend, friend, but let's
Yeah,
just,
but yes, I think it's more relevant if we do it in romantic relationship.
yeah, because it's
Um,
dicier. It's a little dicier
yeah,
because as a
and more
human,
complicated.
yeah. Or like a really close friendship that you're like, we're lifers, right?
Yeah.
So you and your big heart has bumped up against another soul and your hearts are intertwined. And a lot of times we bump up into these souls because of, it could be that your wound and their wound is an energetic match. Because remember, we were talking about earlier, everything's energy. Everything's energy. So you're emitting an energy of whatever you're feeling and also your past, the things you've experienced. And it could be even beyond what you can remember, but we're emitting this energy. So you can bump up into souls that, well, we all are, souls that are simple, are a frequency match. And so most likely you bumped up into a soul that was a frequency match in that moment, right? So let's just say now you're 1 year down, 2 years down, three down, and you're doing work, because most of the women who ask these questions, they've been stepping into work,
Hmm.
meaning looking at their shadows, looking at their wounding, and so now the frequency has shifted because you've been doing some work, right? And now you're noticing these certain behaviors, and maybe you noticed it like a week later, but you're noticing these certain behaviors that are twinging on you, and you're like, ooh, that's not resonating. That doesn't feel good in my body. And that's the biggest indicator. What is your body saying when you're with this person? Is your body shutting down? Is sex painful? Do you feel cramps in your neck and you're blaming it on your pillow? Come on, people. Like, we have to stop blaming the pillows, the bed, sitting at a desk, doing a job we don't like. A lot of times we're blaming our jobs. Yes, that can be it, but sometimes it's our partnerships. These intimate partnerships that we have are going to manifest in our bodies. We're like, oh, I got this new rash. I don't know where this rash is coming from. Look at your people. So what I'm saying is, a lot of times women, especially in, let's just call it what it is. I like to call a spade, in this like spiritual awakening world that we're all in, because we're all healers. We are all healers. So this little healer part of you is like, well, I don't want to just let this person go or release them, or set up a boundary, because this must be mine that I get to reflect back within you. Great to do that. That's fine. But then after you've done and gotten the message and you're cleaning up your side of the street, which most of us need to, and this relationship is still not a match, you're still receiving discomfort in your body and you're not feeling super awesome, right? And you'll notice it because you'll get tired around them. Definitely there will be stuff sexually for sure. Neck, usually, lower back will happen, and your knees. You'll start having knee problems. And then you can either set up boundaries. You can say, these are the things that work for me, these are the things that don't. And if those things don't shift, then you get to shift out. You get to shift out. It's okay to shift out of relationships. I think Emily and I both did that. I mean, it's okay to shift out. Or they're going to shift out, especially if you set up some boundaries. Does that
Mm.
make sense? So it's like,
Yeah.
yes, I do think it's a little bit of both, because you
Yeah.
want to learn, why is this triggering? Because a lot of times it is part of your journey, but then after a while and you've learned it and you're still seeing it, it just might be an in-frequency match, and you don't have to keep walking with this person. Because what I do know is, in relationship, people that are a mismatch are is the quickest way to keep you from your purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it takes a lot of work and energy to try and get something into match if it's not.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, yeah, thank you for that. Okay, so what I heard you say is yes, take a look inside. Like, do look in the mirror first. Is this showing me something that I have work to do? How do I clean up my side of the street? And then, which is, I would argue, the point of our relationships. And then once we've done that work, once we've cleaned it up, if the behavior is still happening, if it still feels like a mismatch, you can either put up boundaries and that might have them leave, or you can release them. You can move on. You can graduate. I like to say graduating from the relationship.
I don't ever think it serves you to be your partner's healer. Like where you think that you are going to heal them, you're gonna
Mhm.
like fix their trauma. I think that women can get into that because we're desiring to be our healer. Go heal in other ways.
Go get paid for that. Go make money for that.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really helpful. Because it's like we all, I mean, yes, we all want to see someone's potential, and yet let's like go into relationships that are already a match, like
Mhm.
energetically, and then you evolve together. So, this show is all about bringing the taboo modalities into the mainstream, like
Oh,
those spine-tingling taboo modalities that just may be the key that someone's soul needs to feel free. Is there anything that you feel like maybe you don't have permission to talk about, or anything that's just on the cutting edge? You asked me about Egypt on your show, which is new for me. But is there anything that you were like hungry to talk about what's next that people don't ask you often?
there's so much. And this is
Woo!
honestly, if I'm really honest, this is something that probably almost every day I sit in with spirit and I'm like, what do I share and what do I not share?
Mm,
Because I don't think everything
mm,
has to be shared. I'm learning
mm,
that. And so my very human self is always wrestling with, do I share this stuff or do I not? And so to be really real with you, there is so much I could go in so many things that I feel that I wrestle with to talk about. And I'm not sure where that comes from. I don't know if that's still, I've asked myself, is that a part of the little girl that's like afraid to use her voice? Or is there some stuff that I shouldn't be sharing? But one thing I do want to talk about more that I don't feel afraid to talk about, but it is still feels a little edgy for me, is about what we're labeling extraterrestrials, what we're labeling as aliens, or yeah, I think most of us can agree that this exists, and I feel that there's going to be a lot of miscommunication about their intentions.
mm.
And I feel that I'm being asked to talk more about it, and you'll probably see more and more of that coming out from me.
Oh, great. So that was my big realization in Egypt, that I was like, oh, we are not alone. We have not been alone. The pyramids themselves are 100% codes and keys to either can reconnect us or reconnect them. Like it felt like a portal of other nations to this Earth
Yeah.
nation. And it's fun to be 44 years old and have your entire worldview and universe view shifted and blown wide open. And
Because
also just
once
to
you see
like,
something, you can't unsee it. Like
yeah.
you can't, like that's just the truth, what you see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just for anyone who's listening to this, it's like, what are they talking about? Like just a few months ago, Stanford had the first ever. So Stanford University had its first UAE convention, which is now like it's the PC term for UFOs. They're not just unidentified flying
Oh,
objects,
they're
it's
calling it
UAEs,
you.
unidentified anomalous entities,
Oh
which
wow.
includes craft and life forms.
Mhm.
And there were politicians, scientists, like there were all of these like quote unquote credible people there for the first time ever, like an academic university having a convention. And this just happened. We have people testifying under oath in front of Congress about seeing crafts and forms. We now know that the US government has, at least for 70 years, had access to technology. And so this is, things are going to be shifting really, really quickly. And I think that is important that we start listening that we like deepen our ability to listen to what feels true in and of ourselves. Because I think that the simultaneity of us having more contact to, or at least more public discussion of these other life forms, combined with the rise of AI and deep fakes, is a real tricky time to know what is true and what is not, because it's all going to be expanding our lens of perception, right? It's going to be challenging us because what we thought was real is going to be changing and quickly, and that might also be manipulated quickly. So I'm curious to know for you, like when was the first time that you had a feeling or a connection, or when did you know that we are not alone as on planet Earth?
Um, well, okay, so obviously there's the difference between knowing and seeing. I've
Hmm.
known for I don't even know the exact time, but I've known. Um, but I've actually had experiences that I can't deny, and I think that happened approximately like 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And how
yeah.
did it change your life, like having that sort of contact? Which I just want to like celebrate you, because I think it does take an extraordinary amount of love and open-heartedness. From what I've heard, and from the people I know who've had these experiences, there's a similar frequency and a similar level of love that I
Mm,
feel in those people who have had contact. And so just
mm.
celebrating you in that, and I'm curious how it shifted your life, how it shifted who Danette May is, and how you show up in this incarnation after that experience.
Yeah, I, well, and I say this humbly because I still feel that I have to keep remembering that, yeah, I'm a divine being, like, because that's the biggest thing is like these, well, I'm just going to call them beings for the lack of, because I don't know if I really resonate with extraterrestrial or alien, or because it feels like that word has kind of gotten a little bit out there. And so everyone
Yeah.
has a different context of what that word means. Let's just call it a being
Hmm.
or beings. Um, what's being transmuted and what I was receiving is just a remembrance that we are connected to something bigger, right? So for what it's done for me, we were talking earlier about energy and creating things like what we like to call in this earth plane, like, oh, businesses and money and health and the trips and the man and the friends, all the things that we talk about manifesting. um, it's almost this reminder that one, love for me is and I think and I think you agree, and we both agree on this, like, you know joy and dancing and singing and all that, and sex and orgasm, all that is also in that love frequency. But there's like a deep love frequency of like this, loving you and nothing, and loving even if I don't have orgasm, and loving even if I can't dance, and loving, there's just this energy, and I don't know how to describe it, but it's an energy. And that's really what was being shared with me, was about this energy of love and it being an amplifier. Like, I think of jet fuel or those race cars when they put the extra little octane in there and you can like go so fast. And so it's just reminding me that anything, and that's where manifestable birth from, is these sound frequencies and this movement and this understanding of what I'm getting is that, I can create anything. I don't have to stay in this box of, oh, I'm this fitness person, or nutrition person, or author, or a speaker. I can be whatever's coming through to me, and whatever wants to be birthed through me. So it's kind of giving me more permission, I guess I should say, giving me more permission to just play whatever chord and string I want to play.
Oh, so beautiful. And
Yeah.
you're playing so many chords so beautifully, and it's in your unique frequency, the frequency of Danette. I actually interviewed a woman who was with me in Egypt, and she's a channel. And I asked her on the show if she'd be willing to channel, and she said yes. And so she went into meditation, and you could see her eyes change. She's from New Zealand, so she has an accent, and she starts speaking, her accent changes. And she was channeling a fractal of Metatron, which Metatron is an archangel. And there's like three humans who have ascended into archangels. And Metatron is also known as Thoth. And like there's so many different like
Yeah.
incarnations of Metatron. And it was so fascinating to hear her channel. And I basically got to interview Like it felt like I was interviewing this divine being, like I was interviewing an angel. And the thing that kept coming through was see beauty, spread beauty, see beauty, spread beauty. And know that every single brush on the canvas is beauty, even if you can't understand it as beautiful yet. And that the more we can paint with our unique frequency, that the more beautiful the giant tapestry becomes. And it feels like, it's a bit of a cliche. We always say, like, sing your song, like play your note in the
Yeah.
grand orchestra. And this was a similar transmission, but just with the analogy of painting. And so it sounds like that is what came through for you as well. Of if we are in pure love, if we purely love ourselves, then it gives us the freedom to pour jet fuel on our dreams, and then to really like play our instrument, to play the role that we were assigned with audacity.
Yeah. I know this is your show, but I have a question for you.
Great.
Because I know you've been in a lot of spaces and with a lot of different, and I'm just going to use the word the spiritual community. I don't know who you're referring to, but like even just saying, oh, this person says they can channel this, like what you call Metatron.
Metatron. Hmm.
Yeah. And how are you? Because what I'm seeing is this wave of, there's trends in the world, right? And so there was a huge, like 10 years ago, I'm giving you an example, a yoga trend that happened, right? Where was a trend, and it was for like, it escalated, it peaked, and it's still here, but there was a huge trend in it. And I see this huge trend of healers coming, and it started, and we're all a part of it, and it's going to have a big peak. And what I do know, and just because we're in this human experience, is there's a lot of snake oils and people that are, well, jumping on the trends, and wanting it and wanting to play with it, and also not using, we were talking about magic. How do you decipher, because it can be tricky, because your body might not ping up on it. Like I've been noticing that, and I'm curious how you, within myself, and I'm curious how you decipher what's true channeling, or what's true magic, or and when I say true, it's coming from love and not
Mm.
from an ego or a way to manipulate or control.
Ooh. Well, I mean, that sounds like you just answered your own question of like, is it coming from love or is it coming from a desire to manipulate or control? But I'm fully with you on like the tech bro slash shaman. Like we're certainly entering like that phase. Um,
Mm.
and, and I think it's trusting all of it, like that all of it, even if we can't see it as beauty, right? That all of it, all the brushstrokes have their purpose. And to me, it
Oh,
comes back to the people pleasing, which we talked about on your show as well. That like I am beholden to no one. I owe no one my time, my energy, access to me. And so if someone doesn't feel like a 100% resonant yes, like really boundarying myself and not giving them access to my psyche, not opening myself energetically around them, not putting myself in any sort of a vulnerable position where I would ask for their advice or their channel or
have you had that experience where someone has wanted to work on you or give you advice or channel, and you're like, this doesn't feel in resonance?
it's interesting because I mean, it happens online all the time. Like people are always like, when you were speaking, like you're doing an Instagram live or a Zoom or something, and there's 3,000 people, and people are like, I can feel an entity in your throat chakra. And like for a minute, I'm like, is there an entity on my throat chakra? And then I'm like, how about no? Like, how about I'm doing fine. But interestingly, someone DM'd me on Instagram, and she's like, Emily, I know you were on Broadway. I'm a voice teacher. I've been in the Broadway community. I would love to gift you 3 voice lessons. And everything in my body said yes. And I just was like, why am I saying yes to this? I don't know who this person is, but I said yes. And she came to my house and she gave a voice lesson, which is like one of those vulnerable things that like singing has been a very emotional journey for me. Like I left Broadway because I didn't like the way that my voice sounded. And here I am letting a full stranger into my voice, like touching my body, giving me a voice lesson. And it was amazing. And so I think it was just truly like listening to my body's discernment. And I think this comes back to the pleasure work as well. Like if you know like what your body desires, if you know what an enthusiastic hell yes feels like in your body, then it's very easy to detect anything that is not that. If it's like, okay, fine, that's a no. right? And so
Okay,
I'm
fine is a no.
yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, like certainly in like sexual spaces, right? Like if you're in a play party or
Oh,
there's many people interacting, if you don't get a like, yes, I would love that. If you don't get an enthusiastic yes, then it's a no.
yeah.
And that's like a boundary for someone else. And so it's like respecting that boundary inside of yourself. And I am
Mm,
in the luxury position of I have an abundance of amazing healers that I actually don't have enough time for. Like I want to coach with all of my friends. I want to go to all of the therapists. I want to do all like I love this stuff. And so I have no shortage of healers. So if someone comes to me and they're new and my body isn't like every cell isn't screaming yes, then that's a no for me.
mm,
And I think that that's universal advice, but I do think we're entering an age where, everyone's going to be like I got a weekend certification to become a shaman. Like we're definitely entering that. And and so then it's like don't take fitness advice from someone who isn't fit. Don't take financial advice from someone whose money you don't respect. It's like then just look at their lives. Are they leading a life that you would want to emulate?
mhm. Yeah, absolutely.
And
And
I
don't
think yours
look
was
at
the
your life
best.
on social
Is it coming
because
from love?
yeah, and it's coming from love. Yeah, totally.
And what were you saying just now?
And I said, don't just look at social because I think
Mhm.
social is an illusion piece. It's an illusion
Mhm.
play. Be careful when you're looking and feeling into, yeah, anything actually. Just really
Mhm.
going beyond behind the curtain.
Yeah, and I think then asking your guides, whatever your higher self, your younger self, like whatever you connect to, and then also asking your body, because
Yeah.
the body is the past, right? Like our cells and our blood and our karma and our epigenetics, they have memories that might be smarter than we are in this intellect. So I
Yeah.
think asking at least the guides in your body, that's a good fail safe. So Danette, this has been so amazing. Is there anything that you wish that I had asked you? Anything that you're dying to share?
No, this has been so good. So fun.
Yeah, I feel like we covered a lot of ground,
We
and I'm
did.
so excited to have reignited our friendship. I feel this inklings and sparks of potential of what we can create together, which makes me
I actually
very
want to be
happy.
texting you because I've seen some things.
Great,
Yeah,
great.
yeah,
So I'm
yeah.
sure that people are fascinated by you and want to learn more about you. Where would you like to send people where to learn more about you?
Oh, that's a great question. I'm doing so many different things.
I mean,
Maybe,
certainly DanetteMay.com because I
yeah,
just
there you
totally
go.
stopped
If we
you.
still go to websites, maybe
Yeah.
go there. You can do social. I try to link ways that might be helpful for you there, but yeah, those are probably the best in
And
this
you're at Danette May on social?
at the Danette May. Yep.
The Danette May. Okay. And we'll put everything in the show notes. But those of you
Yeah.
listening, it's DanetteMay.com or at the Danette May. So, sweet friends, thank you so much for joining me for this fascinating, multifaceted interview with the amazing Danette May. If you enjoyed this, if you found even one aha moment, then our ask is that you share this media as medicine. You could screenshot it, tag us on Instagram. I'm at Ziva Meditation. She's at the Danette May. Let us know what you thought. And always leaving a 5-star review and a comment is a way for us to be able to interact and to learn more about what you want to know more about. So I love you, and I will see you next week on Why Isn't Everyone Doing This?